Hey, so I'm convinced there's some type of breach of security, that there's a mafia structure. Obviously, the mafia structure. But when there's a enemy of a mafia structure, I'm not sure who's the enemy because I get the idea that someone's trying to fix a mindset through a spectrum to the point where some barely even notice up there where it's unnoticed. But the thing is, it's starting to give me the impression there is an Asian um, trying to influence either a Irish, German, or English, or even a Mexican mafia because Rosa Torres is part Mexican and Cuban. But the thing is, I'm getting the feeling, or maybe not Cuban. She doesn't even know her own father to the point where that's the son of a random opinion. But the thing is, I'm getting the approach of there's an Asian mafia or a, escort that is trying to influence her and give her the impression that she's Indian, but then there's a bad sex trade that even Chinese people don't necessarily really like Indian people, so they pose her as someone that's ethnicity that China doesn't really embrace. But I'm getting the feeling that there's lies from an escort or Chinese mafia that is spying on my mother, and it's actually trying to dominate the mindset of her dumbed down thoughts because even the Mexican mafia has to even admit that she has signs of dumbed down thoughts to the point where she there's a cyber throne that is giving higher orders to either a Mexican mafia, Irish mafia, English mafia, but the mafias are all around the world. It's the things I barely know aware or I can recognize either, but I'm getting the impression that there's an Amy and a Mylene that are at war with the Mexican mafia, English. It's pretty much anyone that is not really their own ethnicity. So they found this new identity called Sheldon Matum, and but they're literally it's Rosa totally just burnt. It's like she pulled off the biggest treason of America, where her friends believe they can get anything they want through a cyber throne, and she's helping her, and it's keeping me home inside. I don't know. I used to be like such a outgoing person. Every day I'm out now to the point I'm inside every day, and I'm getting the impression that there's a Chinese that are literally trying to tell her what to do. So she should have her. The thing is, I'm getting the impression even that maybe Coach Marco, there's a coach is it might have a connection to a Mexican mafia or there's mafias, but the thing is, none of them are aware there's a cyber throne to the point where there is a digital where that does influence to the point where they kind of lose the right to convince they have influence of others if there's a digital throne overlapping their identity and voice cloning them, and they're not even dominant mindset no longer. It's almost to the point where you don't even comprehend what is a cyber throne, or at least maybe things. I guess there's a point when there's smarter groups out there than others, and then some are just acting on frustration. But then it's as if people try to control mindsets are frustrated to the point where things are there's ways to subconscious of impulse and even control thought of theirs that some never knew was possible. It's like body hacking or brain hacking or even body snatch or the feeling that it's to the point where it's actually an insult. The feeling that I kind of feel like Chinese make an insult to a Mexican mafia descent or English mafia or it was a um, German descent. The thing is, I'm getting the impression that they totally just burnt the bridge of actual like a world order of a Sheldon, and then they're just creating a whole new order right um, through a electronic spectrum or a fixed spectrum that is totally like can rearrange a election or even of United States or even around the world to the point where you get the idea that there's a spectrum that can fix things to the point where it turns into a feeling that some don't recognize technology is evolving, but thing is, I'm getting an EMF that's harming me right now. So obviously there's a world war going on. Um, at least to call it out, the feeling that there's intentions to actually, if it's my own father, the feeling that they're making false impression of mental illness, that's not mental illness, it's someone's trying to brain fry you through a microwave. So I kind of feel like, each can recite that there's a microwave weapon that is kind of torturing my mind or my brain. And it's feeling that it's right, it's invisible, and I can feel it. It's like an EMF or EMP. There's some type of energy that's flowing into outside, invisible into inside my skull. So it's actually becoming a burden. The clarity is actually not as clear. It's kind of fogging it. So I kind of bring that up. I think there's such thing as a hyperbaric chamber that kind of reduce symptoms of there's any brain swelling or even risk of cancer or even to be super on it to the point where to keep yourself alive. But I'm getting the a nasty obviously there's a nasty war that some are just barely noticing it. Yeah, so it's something else. I'm getting the impression. Obviously, I have origins of America, pretty damn neutral. I wasn't really much aware of any, but I'm feeling that there's a mafia does exist, but I haven't actually. It's to me, it's a little bit unknown. That's why I was actually aware of seeking a wingman or some kind of training because it's as if someone's using a spectrum to. That's not great influencing, and my mother is not a great influencer. I'm kind of convinced that the Mexican mafia needs to admit that she's not a great influencer because there has to be a Chinese person that's trying to influence her that's undermining me, or even a white person that's undermining the whole. So there's a big mafia that's pretty much. I kind of convinced even that's causing the feeling of tormenting or the feeling of harassment. The thing is, it's very noticeable that there's a mafia in Sacramento, or there's a mafia in the United States that is has feeling a threat to me. Or there's so it's not normal, it's for Rosa to have a mindset to keep inside. Normally, people have mindsets to actually earn a living, and I'm having the impression that my father is making false statements, or even because it's normal to actually to go seek to make a earning a living. But the thing is, there's a harassment through a spectrum that's kind of delaying to be invited in holding a position because it's the feeling there's a nuisance even at the workplace environment or even in the same community to the point where the boss of any position may feel it's kind of it's creating a big nuisance, and the feeling that there's a mafia doing this, and I kind of convinced that there's a mafia, and they're making it. Even police have a mafia of their own. Or at least you can watch the movies where even police try to befriend other mafias. But the thing is, you get the idea that there's a predicting program, and to the point where there is, it's to the impulse of humanity to the point where it seemed like some things do align in unusual ways. So you try to catch on to not to have same inertia as some person that's going to get burnt out or at least get to have a shorter life. But you get the idea that I guess some don't catch on to the actual that there this is all this is kind of a feeling of even movies might be creating a fixed spectrum to the point where it recreates a new manifestation of destiny to the point where that's they don't mind to watching those type because they kind of feel like it keeps things in line in a weird way. And some people, the criminals don't even catch on to it. It's like it's something else because I don't necessarily. I think there's choices, obviously, and it's important to protect what you desire, want to learn. Things I wasn't really in the mind to actually cause much of a nuisance or cause a war. I was actually every now and then getting the spectrum that will it kind of messes with the manifestation of thought to the point where it's not even my own. It's not me causing the risk of creating the thought. It's as if there's a spectrum that's causing the risk and or an intruder to the point where it feels like harassment and it's just it's overwhelming. Um, um, there's few interesting things that to fulfill. And right now, I'm getting the feeling that there is a Chinese mafia or that's trying to give the impression Rose is super dumb, or at least to give her orders to the point where she just thinks that way, to the point where that's just the mindset of the wheel of thought of herself. The thing is, some just need to be straight up and just admit it, because that's not normal for to just have a different to give orders to a different cyber throne. But I'm origins of America. I do recognize of America. I'm very to the point. I guess I might be a bit too neutral to the point. I don't really recognize a mafia to the point, but I kind of feel like there's a mafia targeting me to the point. There's some type of um. Obviously, it could be if there's such thing as a cyber throne, or if you were descendant of a president, or have a white father that one's in Wisconsin. There is you would think that there's a Washington that does have a home there also, or maybe it was this false impression. But the thing is, when I'm trying to speak my own mind up, it's not normal for a spectrum of intruders speak their mind through a Sheldon. And I don't mean to throw a crowd off and think as if I'm dumb. I kind of it's to the point where when someone has a spectrum, like you think someone have good intentions to influence you to actually they have skill of thought, and this person's doing just the opposite. It's as if it's harassing me to push away skill of thought, at least to consider the thought that that's something to desire, at least like if you're even supposed to have mindset to protect your country, or there's a mindset to that's doing just the opposite to the point where there's a some type of frequency that's targeting me, or some type of spectrum that is actually a feeling of a hacker that is actually sabotaging. But the thing is, it kind of it's something to bring up. Um, and I'm getting the impression that there's a bunch of escorts start trying to give her orders, and that's some are most might seem like they're Asians, and then their next thing are some Latin, but they're I get it. For me, it seemed like a burden for Irish mafia, because I could kind of picture a Mexican mafia that's sharing the same spectrum as mine, and then an Irish mafia that's trying to influence or at least get everything that is real treasure that to get to the subconscious. And these other groups are not actually getting to the treasure, so it's like to the point where it's caught. Now I'm talking about a nuisance, but it's fogging the mind, and it's not. It's to the point where if you can have anything, it's like what's really think about or sometimes it's something to but then even have a wingman because you can't just so and how do you protect your wingman, because then every now when you have a wingman a real friend, I mean to think how do you it's to be mindful to protect your friend, or at least that's an obstacle too, and that should be influenced to actually influence to protect somebody, or at least that's this keep that in thought. But or even a German, right? If there's a German reciting, there's someone messing with Sheldon Spectrum. If the Germans were trying to, hey, I'm trying to help you or help us, but the thing is, there's someone that's not German that is in our spectrum of the device of Sheldon, or there's a feeling that there's a microwave attack that's harming me to actually complete them, get these done. The thing is I'm getting the feeling some at least be honest that there's a nuisance around me, at least to even, have strategy of being involved, because this is not normal to have lack of friendship or even it's to gain on me, man. That's I do I'm interested. Um, but the thing is, when I'm trying to speak my mind, I'm getting the feeling that at least to recognize that there's a spectrum that's overlapping. To I kind of feel like I need a shield to stop this from feeling of interruption. The feeling that there's a feeling of pirate broadcast or EMP or EMF. That's some type of energy force that's coming from the outside to the inside, and yeah, this it's not normal. And born in America, thing is, I'm a bit too neutral to the point where I kind of normal to get a community friendly vibe. It's not right now. For the past 8 years or 10 years, the whole Elk Grove of it might have. There might be there's too many mindsets that are being altered, and to the point where I'm getting the impression that there is a spectrum that's creating a feeling of intense violence, or the feeling of there's an intruder watching everything, and it feels like they can't get caught, or maybe that's what they think, and that's what the feeling. There's a spike because they feel like they can't get caught, and now I'm getting a feeling there's a spike in violence because they can't get caught. So there's a group that's spying on me that's I kind of convinced that is creating an induced chemical through a spectrum, or even through a gang or a mafia of others, but some don't even recognize there's ways to actually alter biometrics, voice clones to the point where you, some yeah. So I guess it's to the point where gang leaders might not even control their own leader. And now it's to the point where they're going for the identities of actual leaders, to the point where it's like you don't even have control of your own leadership anymore. But the thing is, I've never been insulting them, but the thing is, when someone's trying to at least align a spectrum of leadership, and then you're not the issue, someone else is creating the issue, and or if it's not, and it's sometimes to be mindful of financial partnership. You don't have to, but instead of trying to get you caught up with nine nine excuse me, but I'm getting a bit to the point where I'm getting tongue tied because there's too many people talking. And when I'm sleeping, it feels like there's four different crowds talking, or that's targeting through a signal to my head that is creating of the feeling I'm being watched, but it's from my neighbor from both sides, and the feeling that there's a real signal penetrating through my home. It I don't actually feel I have erratic behavior, but I kind of feel like my father's the one that actually has this technology, because the feeling that when you're explaining yourself about it, there's an EMP. It can create the feeling that you're in distress, or at least appear you're erratic. But the thing is, it's the feeling there's a distress that is harming the the subconscious and the brain of her. At least it feels like there's some that's it's not a mentally challenged moment. It's actually a feeling that there's something that is messing with the clarity when you're interested to hear someone speak their mind, and or even because the feeling that there's a new way to cause a disruption through a EMP. Um, yeah, so it does worry me. Um, Born in America, the thing is, I'm getting the impression that, like I said, there's a cyber war that's. I kind of feel like it's an Asian. It's either an Amy or Mylene or some groups that are working kind of together with Wayne, or it's to the point where it's a big mob order, but I don't think my own father comprehends that my own father didn't necessarily understand that there's ways to go for everything on the entire planet, and someone, yeah, so it's like literally you get the most treasure on the planet. um I don't think my father understands it, and there's a whole nother person that thinks they can pose or get something similar. um the thing is, I'm pretty quiet minded, and I don't necessarily mean to pose a threat, but the thing is, I'm getting the feeling that there's a spectrum that's more at risk of posing a threat, because it's there must be a different level of who's where with each other. But right now, I'm getting the impression that her friends are not really her friends. They're just telling her what to do. I'm kind of convinced that even when I buy coffee, none of the coffee smells good. And when she cooks food, the food doesn't taste good. She doesn't season the food. There's so many bad things to her, like her thought. Um, I haven't left the home in 4 years, damn near. Like the home, there's something bad going on. Um, I'm kind of convinced my own father is has did some has did something, but I don't think he comprehends that there's ways to actually have everything. It's as if I kind of feel like there's a lot of things going to backfire on my own father, because it's as if so many things he wasn't prepared for. It's to the point where it it just doesn't. I don't think there's any really things going to work out in his favor, to be honest with you. As bad. I mean, there's another person I can picture posing as thinking what is possibly. But the thing is, right now, obviously there's mafias at war with each other, and I'm kind of convinced that even so this mafia right now, there's a real mafia spying on me. I'm pretty sure that has to be a real mafia. If there's drugs, or if there's how the feeling of being resented, or the feeling of lack of influencing, or at least a financial partnership. Um, it's a bit bizarre, because you think, the person of Cyberthrone, or at least the convinced that programming is actually fantastic for financial partnership. But the thing is, I may need the feeling of sensory deprivation, or and also a hyper chamber. It is time to actually, what does it take to actually have your own thoughts, or at least if I was talking to a financial partner, I kind of feel like there is a neural attack, someone trying to mimic the mind of Sheldon to give them orders, or their role. So if my financial partner had a supercomputer, I'm getting the feeling that there's someone trying to pose as Sheldon, or maybe a brother of Sheldon, or the feeling of my mother is trying to help someone pose as Sheldon, or or my father trying to help someone pose as Sheldon. The feeling that there is a feeling of there's some type of another mafia trying to actually give the financial partner orders, like, oh, I'm not part of a mafia, or at least I didn't know if I was. But thing I wouldn't know. It's like, oh, your financial partner, okay, you didn't know if he is or not. But thing is, you're my financial partner, because if they're trying to help you out, or you're trying to help me out. So thing is, I'm getting the feeling, or at least manifest the thing that can bridge through you. But thing is, I'm getting the idea that oh, there's a new way to fix the spectrum, to fix lives, or even fix financial businesses or even financial agenda, or the feeling that it's possible. I kind of convinced that there's a spectrum that kind of can fix things, but the thing is, that's all a program. The thing is, that should be a little bit taking a little bit of interest, at least for financial partnership. But the thing is, it's not normal for someone to push that type of way. Or I kind of convinced my own father did that, and he's creating. And there's a mafia. My father's hiding around, and my mother's. They're both. It's as if there's a backfire between both of them because they don't want to keep honest with your their offspring, or at least. So I'm getting the impression that things are just backfiring for both ends because there's not enough respect to give or gain, or at least to convince that there is sabotage now.